there, Golfcast Nation. This is Brian Bailie here, bringing you a new episode of Bottle Share. And I have the pleasure of bringing Zach Gasper. Did I say that correct?
You got it.
From Lost Whiskey. Mark was supposed to join us, but I said I wanted someone a little younger, a little better looking, and a much better sense of humor. So we got Zach instead. So Zach, how are you doing this evening?
It's a lot to live up to there, Brian. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm doing well. About to start drinking bourbon. About to crack my first bottle of the night, so I'm doing
It
good.
could be worse things, right?
Exactly.
And you are the vice president of design. And how do you want to describe your workings there at Lost?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm one of the founders, along with Mark and Nick. I am the vice president of design. I'm also a registered architect or on-staff architect, which I know every good bourbon company should have. So yeah, I help with all things design, marketing, website design, do it all. But, we're a small company, so everybody wears a lot of different hats.
Understand. So my question is how did you get tricked into being one of the co-founders of a whiskey company?
That's a good question. I'd say, it probably started, it was like 10 years ago now. We're architects and builders by trade. We used to run a design, build, construction company. We still do architecture and design as well. So we do bourbon and architecture. But we were doing a lot of high-end custom homes, construction on high-end custom homes. And it's just we got a little burnt out on it. It's a bit of a tough game to win, that when you're dealing with projects of that size and cost, there's just homeowners have a lot of sort of at stake, or a lot wrapped up into a lot of emotion, which rightfully so, because there's a lot of money and people dedicate a lot of time to building homes. But we decided we wanted to get out of the service industry and get out of that business, because homeowners could be the best part of our projects. They could also make our jobs very difficult, along with the weather and just everything that goes along with building a house. So me, Mark, and Nick sort of sat around and just thought about, well, what do we want to design and build? What sort of like product could we make? What sort of brand could we make? And so, yeah, we were sitting on it for a while, just knowing that we wanted to make a product that people either liked and they bought, or that if they didn't like it, they didn't have to buy it. So not quite sure how it started, but every year during Christmas, other than doing like buying gifts for each other, we would always just do a bourbon exchange, because we all enjoyed drinking bourbon. So one year we were sitting around, I think that was 2016, and we thought, well, what if we made our own bourbon? And we all liked bourbon. We all wanted to learn more about it. So we thought, what the hell, let's give it a shot. We also realized at that time, as we did a little bit more research, that you didn't need to make a huge, financial investment into starting a bourbon company, which is always good when you're doing that sort of a side hustle. As long as you're not going out and buying a bunch of distilling equipment, there's ways that you can source bourbon to get the process started and sort of get your feet wet with minimal initial investment. So yeah, that's sort of a long-winded way of describing how I got into it.
That's awesome. So now looking back, it's been 10 plus years. Would you do it again?
Definitely.
Awesome. Actually, I get a couple distillers that'll go.
No, I mean, but well, also, like I said, I'm an architect. I'm here to create pretty pictures. Mark and Nick do a lot of the heavy lifting on the day-to-day stuff, so I get to come in and reap all the benefits of drinking bourbon that we've made, and getting to say I'm a part of a bourbon company. So for me, it's all upside.
Yeah, that's right. It sounds like the right job.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. So what we're going to do tonight is I have 4 of your offerings. I did have the double oak. It made it to Ireland, and it didn't make it off the golf course. There was a bottle left in Ireland there.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, give us a little idea of why this bottle, why the 375 out the gate. I know you have a newer, updated version, and of course, I guess what everyone asks. I've gotten a bunch of friends to buy this, and they all ask, "What the heck is up with the leather band? What is this?" So give us a little insight on that.
The 375s right out of the gate, we wanted to do a bottle that differentiated itself from other bourbon bottles on the shelf. So we like the design. This is coming at it from sort of the architect and design eye from Mark and I. We like that it stood out. We like the sort of minimalist look of the bottle and the leather and the brand itself. The leather strap, it's really, I guess, take a step back. I mean, the reason we started this company is really to promote human connection. We like the idea of you being able to sort of sit down with this bottle of bourbon, share it with somebody that you love. 375 is a good sized bottle, but you don't feel like you're completely hammered after you finish it and are sitting with a friend or two. So we wanted with the leather strap, we wanted to have something that you could, commemorate that experience with. So if you're, fishing with your dad or meet up with some buddies that you haven't seen in a long time, you got sort of a token of that experience.
Nice. And I do love the 370. I do love the bottle because it fits really well in travel bags,
Yeah,
really well in a golf bag. And like I said, we've had bottles now in Scotland, Ireland, and all throughout the U.S. on a bunch of different golf courses. And needless to say, they rarely ever make it back off the golf course.
that's what we like to hear. That's why we designed it that way. So it's good to hear
That,
that it's being used as
yeah,
intended.
yeah. I think they're the perfect size because again, you're gonna force them. You're looking at a good 4 to 5 pours, so everybody's happy. Maybe there's a second bottle for the back nine, depending on how slow the day is going. But quite enjoyable, quite enjoyable. So
Exactly. We've all been there. I mean, finished off a 750 before, and it happens, of
it
course.
does happen, but
The three
it,
375 is a good place to start.
it is a good place, and you don't feel bad. It's like eating the mini Oreos, right? It's a mini. It's little.
Exactly. Your stroke doesn't go to complete shit at the end of a 375.
That's right.
Sorry if I'm not allowed to cuss on this.
No, you can cuss all you want. We don't mind.
Sound good.
So we'll get started with I guess the high rye.
Sounds good.
And when I discovered y'all, oh God, then I think it was during COVID, and I think it was they did a whiskey festival in Charlottesville. I had never heard of Lost up to this date. We're going through trying a bunch of different Virginia whiskeys, and there's two guys standing back in the back corner. I tried the kind of the entry proof, the high rye, and then I did the cask, which we were getting ready to do, and it kind of floored me for a higher proof whiskey to drink that smooth, especially coming out of Virginia. That was kind of one of those moments I'm like, whoa, you guys are doing some really, really cool stuff. But I'm a huge Wild Turkey fan. I love rye whiskeys. I love high ryes. So needless to say, I'm a big fan of y'all's whiskey. So give us a little idea about the high rye and any great information you can pass along about the whiskey.
Yeah, like I said, I'm more of the pretty picture guy, so I probably am not gonna hit all of the tasting notes, and
We don't care. A lot of my group is like, good.
my palate is not that refined. I'm more than happy drinking Jim Beam and ginger ale or
Fair
Maker's
enough.
Mark. But no, let's see the high right here. It's gonna most of this is from Nick too, so we can thank him. But it's
All right.
gonna have some black pepper on the nose. It's gonna be a little spicier and smokier than our high wheat offering, which is gonna be a little bit smoother and more traditional tasting. It is typically higher in rye content than a lot of other high rye bourbons that are on the market. Um, and we think it finishes smooth and clean, but we'll let you be the decider of that. We tend to age our stuff at least a minimum of 4 years. A lot of times we like to let it go for longer, up to 6 or 7 even. Once you start going past that, at least for my taste, starts to get a little bit too smoky and oaky. But all of our barrels are single barrel. It's all straight bourbon, never blended. It's basically Nick. Nick, bourbon guy. He goes around. He tastes what's on the racks. Rotates the barrels, knows what he likes and knows what he doesn't like. So if we pull it off and it's a little young, we'll put it back up there. And if we feel like it's getting to that sweet spot, then we pull it off.
Nice. So it's more aging, kind of like makers, aging more to taste than an actual how many years it's actually sitting on a shelf. Nice. So again, I'm a big fan of y'all's whiskeys. I would say inside of the Virginia realm, I would say you all are probably my favorite bourbon from Virginia.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. There's a lot of good ones. I like KO. I like the Filibuster's all right. Ironclad. They make some good bourbons. But I think kind of for my palate, I really enjoy your offerings. And again, for high rye, I think it's lovely.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that. Like I said, Nick, and Mark are the main guys, going out there and testing the barrels and deciding what they like. I always like what they select, but and I know, our mash bill that we've refined over the years, I certainly enjoy as well.
Yeah.
But it all comes from the aging process and trying to figure out when it's the right time for us, at
No.
least. Like I said,
Yeah.
if we like it, then we hope other people will. But if they don't like it, that's fine
Well,
with us too.
it sounds like Nick might have a little better job than yours if he's just going around.
Yeah, well, when I'm in the warehouse with him, we combined our design studio into the Lost Whiskey warehouse. So oftentimes, he'll come by. Sometimes at like 10 in the morning, he'll say, "Hey, try this," and it's great, but it's all it's a double-edged sword because when you have design meeting at 10:30 a.m. and you already have a little buzz going, it can help or hurt you.
Well, just it is what it is.
Exactly.
No, but again, I think again you get all the traditional bourbon notes. You get sweet, you get the caramel, you get the sweet, you get a lot of vanilla. I would say the kind of the interesting piece that I get with most of your whiskey, your finishes are very short, very sweet, kind of that vanilla sweet at the end, but it's clean, crisp, and kind of exits pretty quick. I think for a lot of whiskey drinkers that come to my house, I have 200 and some bottles on the wall. A lot of the beginners, I'll put them in a lost wheat or
Yeah.
kind of out the gate because I think it's just a very friendly whiskey. But it has enough complexity that you can start to pull notes from it. It's just not, it's just not a sugar bomb or or a vanilla heavy. It does have some layering to it, but proof is good, and it just gives them a pretty good sense of whiskey. And I love the fact that it is a Virginia bourbon, so most people think bourbon only comes from Kentucky. So they're like, wait a minute, I didn't know Virginia had bourbons.
Yeah, I love trying to explain that to drunk people at events we go to. No, it doesn't have to be made in Kentucky.
That's right. I don't fear what people don't know. I fear what people think they know.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're like, no, it can only be made in no. And then that's when you hit them with it doesn't have to be aged in an oak barrel, and they'll go nuts. It's just an oak container. As long as it's literally in some oak, it
You're
is
good.
considered a bourbon. Now you'd have to put an age statement on it of it was in this cup of mine for 10 seconds, but it is considered a bourbon.
Well, yeah, like I said, we do straight bourbon too, so we got to do at least a minimum of two, and we're usually up in the 4 to 6 range.
Yeah, no, because like I said, I always read the labels, and anytime you got a straight whiskey and it's or straight bourbon and there's no age, it's at least 4.
Yeah,
By law, by rule. The
yeah,
federal government will come get you. So, but again, I really, really do appreciate y'all's craftsmanship. Nick, Mark, you guys do a good job, definitely. And it is fun to, when I do hang out with a lot of whiskey guys, when I do bring out a barrel or a bottle of the cask strength or something, what is this? And then they take a sip or two and they're like, oh, I kind of get it now. So I think, there are a lot of great whiskeys being made all around the country. Not to say that Buffalo Trace and makers and, they're great at what they do and they mass produce really, really good whiskey, but there's a lot of smaller whiskey makers out there making really, really good product nowadays.
absolutely.
So go out there and find them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like I said, we don't try to hide the fact that we source our distillate from several, a couple different makers, but the largest one being MGP. But a lot of those guys, they're putting out some really good product, and as you know, most of it comes from the actual aging process. So, which is what we're doing. We're telling them the mash bill we want, and then we're aging it and then selecting when it tastes right.
Is there ever a goal in the future to run your own distillant? if the loss really takes off one day and you're like, all right, we're going to have to do this, because that'd be a great design project.
Yeah, for sure. It's something we're definitely interested in, whether we would take on the capacity to do all of our own distilling in-house or maybe just do some sort of like select barrels.
Yeah.
That's sort of TBD, but it's definitely something that we've discussed.
Because I would say, Zach, I think you'd have to go to market and go, I need to travel the world and go visit some of the, some of the Scotch distilleries, some of the Irish distilleries, and a couple throughout the States, maybe even Japan, and just make sure that our building is going to be right up there with any distillery you go to in the world. I'm just saying, for you, that might be just a really good habit.
That's a good idea. When Mark gets back from Colorado here, I'll bring it
Tell them
on
I
up.
give you permission. I've already signed off on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, we're a bourbon company, but we also sort of envision a little bit more for Lost Whiskey. We started this company to celebrate human connection. Bourbon is certainly one piece of that. Helps bring people together and loosens people up and gets conversation flowing, which is definitely something that we promote. Not to get too philosophical on you, but Harvard has this long running study. I think it's over 80 years now, tracking human development. And one thing the study found is that human connection and meaningful relationships are the key to health and happiness. So I say, Lost Whiskey's goal is to design places, experiences, buildings, bourbon, you name it, to promote those types of connections. And I know that sounds lofty for a bourbon company, but I also think that's sort of what sets us apart. So we're in the process right now, looking at sort of purchasing land all over the country, developing sort of club models that people can go out and gather at places close to nature. Yeah, get to hopefully live long, happy, healthy lives.
No, I think that's great. Like, the reason I started Golf Cask was the same thing. I was like, I have a love for bourbon, whiskey in general, but definitely bourbon. I've been in golf my whole life. I love teaching golf, playing golf. But when you sit down and have a good pour, you're looking at a 30-minute process. You're going to go play a round of golf, 9 holes, you're looking at 2 hours. So
If you're good, if you're me,
if
it's
you're good,
probably like
well,
three and a half.
depends on the golf course. I've played many rounds that were 6 hours, like just way too long. So let's just say a good 2 hour round for 9 holes, like that ability to sit down, slow down, and enjoy the camaraderie in the group. Like, so we do a lot of fun stuff too when we get together as a group. We'll do, like, if we're at a tasting one night at a bar, we'll put our phones in a stack, and the first person that touches their phone has to pay for the night. So if nobody touches
That's
the
a good
phone,
rule.
everybody pays their own bill. But if anybody grabs their phone, for this allotted time, we do it with dinners, we do it all kind of stuff. So anyone because again, what we're trying to do is get people just to, the world's fast. The beauty of technology, us talking, you're in Northern Virginia area, I'm here in Charlottesville, our ability to talk, technology is awesome. But, as a human being, we need to slow down, enjoy 2 hours outside, walk in a very well manicured piece of property, enjoy a whiskey with friends, tell stories. And again, trying to go back in my head, I think the evolution, going philosophical and seeing the future, I think the revolt is going to happen with technology. We're going to be tired of socials. We're going to be tired of tons of video and these components. And we're going to start going back to, again, you know,
Y-
10 friends, 10 friends within a certain area of me, and life is good. No longer, it's not about having 10 million likes all over the world. So kind of when I created Golf Cask, and the magazine was the same thing when we created the magazine side, was again, sit down on a Sunday morning with your coffee, maybe an Irish coffee, and sit through and just kind of read some great articles about golf, about whiskey, about travel, and things along that line. So we kind of run parallel paths
Absolutely.
on the human side, more so than you know just the chaos of the world. Because God knows you get your phones beeping every 3 seconds with president said this, or Congress has done that, or the local government's done this, and
Got to
earthquake.
get that dopamine hit.
That's right. The earthquake in Central Virginia yesterday. Like, come on, man! It's earthquake in Central Virginia. What the hell's going on? But no, I think again, that's probably what I really love most about the company, with the 375, the bottle, having that, I think, very well designed, very well thought out, marketing wise. And again, the one thing I know about whiskey companies is they all have great stories. So I always like to figure out where their story came from and what that looks like. So now we'll jump over to the cask strength. So give us a little idea of the cask strength. So this was actually we didn't talk about the antlers on the deer. Actually,
Yeah.
explain something to the purchaser. What would that be?
Yeah, so the antlers, well, the sort of background to them is that Mark is from Jackson Hole. I went to school out in Colorado, so we're big fans of the Mountain West. So it's elk antlers, elk mount on the bottle, actually based off of elk mount that Mark has up at Lost Whiskey, I believe. The different color antlers on the bottle represent whether it's a high wheat or high rye. So the red antlers. Red stands for the rye, and then the gold antlers stand for the wheat, which seems to be the one thing, the one comment we get the most on our bottles is people, getting introduced to it for the first time. They're sort of like, well, which one's which? It's not spelled out on the bottle. And it's like, well, you got to know it's the red antlers is the rye,
You
the
got to be
gold,
in the in crowd to know.
a little bit, yeah.
I've actually gotten that phone call. One of the guys that was supposed to be here tonight, he's like, "All right, I'm standing here looking at it. Which ones are which?"
It's a very subtle difference, that's for sure.
No, he's like, "What's the black label?" I go, "That's cask strength." I go, "What color's the antler?" He goes, "Gold." I go, "Pick that one." And he didn't show up tonight because he's stuck at a track meet with his kids. Oh well.
Is that what happened, or did he open the bottle a little too early and he's
My understanding is he's stuck at a track meet, and my other buddy was traveling back into Charlottesville today and was in Charlotte and was like, "Oh, I'll be home in plenty of time." And he called me at like 7:15 because I haven't even taken off yet. He goes,
Well, yeah, Mark's headed out to my alma mater actually right now to watch his daughter graduate from college, and
"Nice,
Nick's running a barrel or a barrel selection right now.
nice." So that's nice. That works.
That's how you
So
end up talking to an architect instead of the bourbon guy.
no, my brother-in-law is an architect, so but he builds forensics buildings all over the world.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. He's an architect, builds these class whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very specialized.
yeah, and he actually came up with it's kind of weird, way off topic. He came up with a cadaver vending machine because they are, again, they're working in this space, so it actually works like your vending machine where you hit a certain button and the levers and all, boom, then bring it forward, and that way they could maximize refrigeration space.
Sounds like something you see in Japan.
Yeah, no, but he goes, it's fascinating. So now so they put these in his buildings all around the world as well. So he's double dipping. But no, I think it's quite interesting. But he's definitely the architect I love because you guys are all very particular in every little aspect.
Well, like I said, we come at our design from we were a construction company before we became an
Yeah.
architecture company, so there's always that sort of tension between
So
contractors
you're a
and
functional
architects.
architect.
That's what we like to think. We think we're a little bit more in the know on how things are actually put together and what they cost, because that's always where the friction occurs between those two.
That's right, because the architect goes way too detailed. The engineer over engineers it, and then the builder has to fix it.
Exactly. And then, yeah, drawings can only be so pretty and so detailed, before the people that are actually putting it together don't know how to read them. So you got,
Yeah, no, that's fair.
you got to know who you're working for.
All right, so give us a little background on the cask as well as the weeded mash bill and kind of thoughts on this.
Yeah, so the cask is, no filtering or proofing, goes into the bottle exactly as it was in the barrel. Proof's around 120. That'll fluctuate. The one I got looks like it's around 121 here. A lot of wheat and grain, notes of caramel and vanilla, classic for bourbon. According to Nick, carries a long, clean finish that is very smooth for a barrel proof, which is barrel proof is the way nature intended. It's certainly my favorite. I love just the extra punch of flavor and the extra little bit of the squeeze, the Kentucky hug that comes with
Yeah,
it.
definitely. I'm a big fan of a whiskey that's got a little fight.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good way to put it.
I don't mind 80s, I don't mind 90s, but I really like when it gets up about 110, 115. something that's got a look. Is it's not going to go down easy, but it gives you a lots of flavor. But I think what's really cool with the cask compared to the kind of the proof down version is you do get a little extra flavor notes, but you definitely get the finish with the cask where, like my wife, she's a whiskey drinker with me, and she calls a lot of the lower proofs that have been cut, she calls those table whiskeys, like a good table wine. It's a great whiskey. It's going to give you some flavor notes, but it's a table whiskey. But then you come back with the cask right behind it. Now you're starting to get that long finish. You're getting some of that complexity. You're just getting a little bit of those extra, the extra congeners and all that have been floating around in that barrel. So again, for 120 proof, mine is actually at 119, I think. So again, for a really, really high proof whiskey, it does not drink like a high proof whiskey. You're not, you are getting a hug. You are getting, it is a higher proof, you can tell, but to me, it's dangerous because it drinks really, really smooth for 120. It can be,
Mark found that out at the company Christmas party where the first time we bottled a cask strength. So yeah,
yeah,
we we know that from personal experience.
it can be dangerous because it goes down a little too easy when, for something that should be fighting really, really hard. This one's kind of, it fights, but it's a pleasant fight. It's more of a slap fight. So I could see definitely this one you could run into a little bit of trouble.
That's
I
where
don't
the
know what happened.
375 really helps you out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Well, that
He'll sneak up
375,
on you.
yeah, so really worked out. If you do the proofing, that actually worked out to like a bottle and a half. But that's
Hmm.
okay. You're fine. No, but again, I really appreciate it. Like I said, when I ran across Mark and Nick the first time when they were, I had this and I was just like, wow, Virginia does make a good bourbon now. Like this I can kind of fall in love with just because again it's going to give me it's a true bourbon, right? It's wheated. I'm not the hugest wheated bourbon fan. I like the rye kick, but even this one, you're getting kind of those softer notes, but it's giving you the vanilla. You're getting that caramel. You're getting a little bit of complexity bouncing through the middle, a little bit of spice, and like I said, the back end is just kind of a longer, drawn out, a little bit of warmth. So again, yeah, like I said, this is up my alley. And of course, I do have the cask rye over there. It's probably my favorite of them because I do like that pepper bite.
Me too.
For me, I know
Yeah,
there's a lot of people out there that enjoy good wheated, and I have worked hard to enjoy wheated whiskeys. They've never been my favorite, but I've had a couple of really, really good ones. So I keep trying and I keep circling back. But yeah, I would much rather have a high rye bourbon any day of the week. To me, it's just
me too.
that screams
It's
American whiskey.
yeah, I agree. I love that blend of the spiciness with the the sweetness of bourbon. And
Yeah,
I also like just straight rye as well, but I certainly
so do
like
I.
high rye bourbons more than I like rye.
No, I agree. I think to me, like, I always ask, and I'll hit you with this question right now. If you were a bourbon mash bill, what would you be? To describe you, Zach, what would you be if you were translated over into a mash bill whiskey proofing? What do you think that would be?
I'd probably be a high rye somewhere around 35% and aged somewhere 6 to 7 years.
Nice, nice, very good, very good. I like that, but it is kind of interesting because, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that I think that is also the beauty of the whiskey world, right? There are so many whiskeys now, so many whiskeys, so many really good whiskeys. Like for you not to be able to go out there and find a handful that you're like, man, that's me.
Hmm.
Opposed to when I was growing up, it was Jack, number
Jim.
6, Jim, white label, not even bottle and bonded, white cap. And then I hate to say it, back in the day, Bowman's was terrible. When I was going up through college, I went to Virginia Tech. Bowman's was awful, bad whiskey. And then again, everything came in plastic bottles with twist tops. Like, they've really changed their components as well. Yeah, so I think we're kind of in the golden age of whiskey again for right now. I'm sure there's going to be some some turbulations and some weirdness, but
Yeah, I
I
agree. I agree. It also means there's a lot more competition for us, which is, good for the people, good for the customer, bad for the companies.
yeah, no, I agree. I think there is a lot of competition. Like I said, you go to your ABC store now and you start walking down that whiskey shelf. I mean, it's a lot to take in. I go with very specific, I'm looking for XYZ, but you start going up and down those aisles and you're just like, I haven't seen this one before.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That's how we settled on our bottle design. We're like, man, we got to do something to, distinguish ourselves on these aisles and, rows and rows and aisles of bourbon that people are
yeah.
going to be traveling through.
Yeah, I would say the only one that would be similar to you would be Penelope.
I don't know that I've seen that one before.
Very
There it
similar.
is.
It's a
There it is.
750, but again, shape wise, very similar.
Yeah.
But other than that,
We actually, and we're about releasing, or we have soft released our 750 bottles. So it actually is going kind of counter to what I've been saying this whole time. We went with a shorter bottle on the 750s. They should be on, you can buy them online and you can also buy them at our warehouse. They should be in all Virginia ABC stores here in the next couple of months. That whole process of getting things approved with Virginia ABC is always a little dicey, but we're working our way through it. So there is a 750 offering coming for people that are interested.
yeah, it's kind of funny when the government talks about antitrust and, you know, Virginia ABC. Hello.
Inefficiency, yeah. I can't. There's been several times where they've misplaced, pallets of our bourbon in their warehouse, and everything has to go through their central distribution point.
Yeah.
Actual lost whiskey.
It's lost is actually. Can we go get those bottles signed?
Yeah,
These are collector items. Double lost.
double lost.
Well, Zach, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for jumping in. I appreciate your time. I appreciate y'all's whiskey, your craftsmanship, and I just thank you for what y'all do and keep working it and let us know. Membership wise, I'll keep driving them, try to get them to purchase your bottles, and then hopefully we'll get a crew to come up to Northern Virginia and come actually see the warehouse area and move on from there. But thank you again for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brian. This has been great, and yeah, would love to have you up at the warehouse. Give us enough heads up, and Nick is also a competition barbecuer, so he makes some really good smoked meat. So we could get the smoker set up and take some
Smoked
bourbon.
meat sounds lovely.
Yeah, nothing
Well,
pairs
we
better.
appreciate it. That's right. We appreciate it again. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, and good luck to y'all.
You too. Thanks, Brian.
Bye.
See ya.